The House is set to vote on the $2 trillion stimulus bill tomorrow, and since it passed the Senate unanimously, it is expected to easily get through the House. Our own Andrew Whitman has a story.
All eyes now shifting towards the House and its vote tomorrow on a massive $2 trillion COVID-19 relief package. Speaker Nancy Pelosi appearing optimistic.
We will have a victory tomorrow for America's workers. If somebody has a different point of view, they can put it in the record. But we're not worried about that.
Tomorrow's vote, a potential lifeline for American business owners and families now in limbo because of the novel coronavirus.
How am I going to make rent? How, bills, student loans.
Now we're scrambling to figure out how we can pay our bills.
Pay the mortgage.
Similar stories around the country today. Almost 3.3 million people filing for unemployment in just a week, a number larger than the population of Chicago. It's a record high. The Trump administration's response?
So the unemployment numbers are very sad, but not shocking in that we know a lot of the experts predicted that they would be brutal, and they are.
Some of those experts saying the numbers are even worse than they appear.
They're only using the numbers through March 12th. And as you know, most of the people who have laid off have been since March 12th.
The bill will give those making $75,000 or less $1,200. Married couples who make up to $150,000 would get $2,400 plus $500 for each child. Those checks heading out as early as April 6th. But businesses, especially ones dependent on consumer confidence, are hurting too. Today is supposed to be opening day for Major League Baseball, but instead of fans, Dodger Stadium in California has become a storage lot for rental cars due to lack of demand. President Trump hoping that this relief package will help get the economy moving, along with a plan he discussed with governors today to begin easing social distancing so employees can start going back to work in just a few weeks. But the top doctor on his coronavirus task force had this warning on CNN.
You don't make the timeline. The virus makes the timeline.
So joining us to discuss, Congressman Gregory Meeks, Democrat from New York. We'll talk about both the stimulus in a minute, but first I want to start out with the conditions at Elmhurst Hospital in Queens. The hard message we're hearing from folks both inside Elmhurst Hospital Center, of which the doctors and nurses are talking about apocalyptic conditions, their words, is that the cavalry ain't coming. And as much as you, as much as the governor, as much as the New York delegation has called on for help for weeks, if not months now, it may be a day late and a dollar short by the time it gets there. What is the plan? If they're already at past capacity right now at Elmhurst, where do they go?
Well, look, you're right. I would wish that the president would have utilized the option that he had in commanding corporations or manufacturers to manufacture at a greater number the kinds of PPEs that we need, especially the ventilators. That not being the case, I've been on the phones all day trying to find additional vendors and anyone else that we can get that will be able to bring some of the necessities that our hospitals need. We've been on the phone all day trying to locate alternative sites of which we can have additional hospital beds for folks to have at their availability. Because unfortunately, the national government or the president is not coming through in the way that we need him to come through, at least for the city of New York and the state of New York. So the governor's focused, the mayor is focused. We're going to keep doing what we have to do. We're going to save as many lives as we possibly can. And I can tell my folks that I know how hard they are working because we've all been on the telephone day and night for the last week. And most hospitals that I've talked to we should be able to get at least through the next week. But it gets dire after that. And that's why I'm making calls, as many calls as I can, and we're trying to find as many resources as we can. I try to get FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers to bring in whatever resources they have in the stimulus bill that we just passed to give them some additional funds so that we can make some things happen in as a timely fashion as we possibly can.
I want to get to that stimulus, and I know this doesn't do me any good, but forgetting that they haven't come through, the president has said basically, this is New York's problem. He's directly blamed the mayor of New York City, and he's previously blamed the governor of New York City for not securing the ventilators, etc. When your constituents look you and say, when this is over, who do we blame here? Who let New York City down? Do you point at the mayor or the governor, or do you point at the White House?
But there's no question. All you got to do is roll back the videotape and see what the president said at the beginning of this crisis, where at first he was calling it a hoax and trying to say people were just inventing things because we did not like him, where he said that he had it fully under control, not to worry about it, where he would not go forward with the immediate testing that was necessary, saying that we would not accept anything from anybody else, putting himself on the island. So there's no question about who's responsible. All you got to do is roll back the videotape, listen to what he said from the very beginning to what he's saying now. And, you know, as this terrible virus continues to spread, you know, he thinks it's just going to be in New York City and in the state of New York or California. But as we see now, it's starting to happen in Louisiana, starting to spread into various other states. So it's not, you know, this virus is not going to discriminate between a red state and a blue state or a purple state. And this president is not going to be able to escape the responsibility that he has had as president of the United States. There's no question. You could see the difference in the kind of response that you're receiving from this president than we received from, for example, Barack Obama when we had the Ebola crises and when there was a number of other crises that came up, completely different kind of response. So the responsibility in history will show, the camera of history will show who was responsible.
Let's talk about the stimulus, Congressman. And I know it's not perfect. I know it's significant, and I know it's needed. But I want you to listen to what Governor Cuomo had to say, because originally you in the House, you guys put together a package where $17 billion would have gone directly to New York. This version coming out of the Senate is going to be less than $4 billion with huge budgetary consequences. This is the governor earlier today.
The congressional action, in my opinion, simply failed to address the governmental need. I spoke to all the officials involved, and I believe what they did failed to meet the governmental need. When this is over, I promise you I'm going to give them a piece of my mind, but I would say to them today, this is the time for governmental leaders to stop making excuses and just do your job.
Is the governor right to be mad?
Well, I'd say that we have done our job. If you would look at what we're getting for the people of New York State, it's been really unprecedented. It will be well over $50 billion. When you look at the money that will go into unemployment, go to the MTA, go to hospitals, go to the Port Authority, go to airports. When you look at the money that will go into such things as infrastructure, it is substantial. Now, I understand the governor's problem, however, because there was $150 billion that was allocated by the Senate for government, for individual municipalities and state governments to sustain themselves, sustainability. I know the governor is trying to balance a budget by April 1st, and that is his focus. Our focus on the side of the House and the Senate was to make sure that we get as much money overall to the city and the state of New York as we could, and I think we've done that. But now we do have to try to help the mayor and help the governor balance their budgets.
Well, Congressman, it is going to be a busy time on the Hill dealing with this tomorrow, certainly, and we'll keep a close eye on how New York hopefully gets back on its feet in the not-too-distant future. Congressman Meeks, thank you so much for the time.
Good to be with you.
And I should say, everyone, New York is definitely going to have a rough time ahead of it. Certainly the governor trying to make the math work. All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look at how President Trump is trying to change the narrative when it comes to coronavirus and his response to it.